Stop spending hundreds of dollars at high-end boutiques. Today I'm going to show you how to get that designer look for just a few dollars. We're taking the ordinary and making it extraordinary. Hey everyone, and welcome back to DIYs with Sonja. I'm Sonja, and I'm so excited for today's video because we are doing an ultimate mega marathon. I've put together over 1,500 high-end Dollar Tree DIYs that are absolutely needed to try in 2026. If you caught my video from a few days ago, high-end dollar store DIYs, then you know we've been on a roll lately with these luxury on a budget transformations. You guys loved that one so much that I decided to go even bigger today. This is a one-stop shop for all the home decor inspiration you've been looking for. We're covering everything from modern chic to timeless elegance, all using items from dollar store. By the end of this marathon, your home is going to look like $1,000,000 without breaking the bank. Before we dive into the project number one, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a budget-friendly transformation. And if you're ready for some high-end magic, give this video a big thumbs up. Alrighty, grab your glue gun, let's get started. Next up, I found these two pairs at Dollarama for just $2. You can also often find similar pairs at thrift stores or even Dollar Tree. My inspiration for this DIY came from Olive Atelier's marble pears, which are stunning but definitely pricey. Of course, mine aren't marble, but I knew I could recreate the look with paint. I started with Dixie Belle Terra Clay paint in color wheat. This paint has a beautiful matte finish with soft, slightly textured feel which makes it a perfect base coat. Once they're dry, I pulled out a few more paints to build dimension. I went with Dixie Belle chalk paint in pinecone, as well as chocolate, and also Dixie Belle's silk paint in Hampton Olive. Plus, I kept the wheat on hand for blending. Using a craft sponge, I dabbed on colors, blending as I went to create the layered organic look you'd see in real marble. In the end, I mainly used pinecone and Hampton Olive and wheat for blending, stopping when I felt the depth look natural. These pairs turned out so vintage looking and high end. I absolutely love them, and the best part is they work not just for fall, but as everyday decor year round. If you're enjoying these high-end fall dupes so far, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really lets me know you're loving this type of content. And if you're not already subscribed, I'd love for you to join me here on DIYs with Sonja. Make sure to turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming seasonal DIYs. For my next DIY, keeping with the wood theme, I had these giant eggs that I had picked up at Dollar Tree. Again, I think it was last year, and I'm using that aged oak stain and just staining them with a brush and then wiping the stain off. I applied 2 coats to achieve the darkness that I wanted to. So depending on how dark you want them, that's how many coats you apply. I did do a couple different techniques. Once I painted on and then wiped off, and then the other one I had painted it or stained it, and then I had dabbed the egg with a cloth instead of wiping it all off. And I would recommend, if you don't want your hands to get completely stained, to keep the egg on the rag the whole time, and that way you won't get the fingerprints on the egg either as well. This prevents that too. I've been wanting to add some giant wood eggs to my decor just because it goes well with my current style of my home, but I wasn't able to find any at the store, so I came up with an idea to try and stain it. I wasn't sure how the plastic would take to it, but it turned out pretty good and I was quite pleased with the end result. Now I just have to figure out how I'm going to style my home with these. And if you want to see how I do that, make sure you head on over to my home channel where I'm doing DIY. I braved the snowy weather to head outside and find the perfect large branch to create a fall silver dollar eucalyptus tree. This is a crate and barrel dupe, and I wanted it to be around 8 feet tall. And luckily, I found a suitable one near my neighbor's house, who also happens to be my mother in law. So I had permission to cut it down. Using a small handheld chainsaw, I cut the branch and brought it inside. To create the base, I picked up a flower pot from Dollarama for $4 and a bag of concrete from Home Depot. The concrete I chose had a pebbly texture, which worked well for this project. If you need a smoother finish for a different DIY, you might want to choose a finer mix. And here is what the branch looks like that I decided for this project. I mixed equal parts of water and concrete, stirring it until fully combined. This took a bit of effort, but it wasn't difficult, just a bit of a workout. Once the concrete was ready, I placed my tree branch into the pot. You can mix the concrete separately and then pour it into the pot, but I found it easier to mix everything directly in the planter. For stability, I had my husband hold the branch upright while I secured it with wooden supports and heavy objects on top to prevent it from tipping. It took about an hour for the concrete to set. One set, I headed back to Dollarama and I picked up silver dollar eucalyptus branches for $3 each. Initially, I bought 11, but after reassessing, I went back and purchased 7 more. I trimmed each eucalyptus branch into smaller pieces and hot glued them onto my tree branch. Another option would be drilling small holes into the branch and inserting the stems, but I found hot glue to be a quicker and easier method. The original inspiration tree was priced at $600 from Crate and Barrel. My version came in just under $60, a huge savings. Once the leaves were attached, I made a few final trims for a more balanced look. Also felt that the middle needed a bit more filling up with branches. And here it is, all filled up and trimmed up, and I love how it looks. I placed my tree in a wicker basket I already had, similar to the inspiration piece. To the basket, I am also going to add some burlap. You can add some rocks and deer moss or any type of filler that you think would look good. I love how it turned out. It makes such a statement in my front entry for a fraction of the price. For my final DIY, I picked up a $5 pot from Dollarama and decided to give it an old world stone effect using joint compound. This is another Olive Atelier inspiration, and here are the two pots that kind of gave me an idea on the texture and the direction that I wanted this pot to go. Wearing gloves, I applied joint compound directly to the pot, creating organic texture by spreading it in different directions. I made sure to cover at least a quarter of the interiors inside, since some of it will be visible, depending on what's placed inside. Once the compound dried, I lightly sanded off any rough or overly thick areas. Next, I searched my basement for paint and I found a mystery shade I don't recall purchasing, but it turned out to be perfect. I used it as a base color and I painted the whole thing. And then I went in and layered Cocoa Rust-Oleum chalk paint, and also I mixed the Cocoa Rust-Oleum chalk paint with some of that base color to add dimensions. Using a wet rag, I blended the darker and lighter tones, adjusting until I achieved the aged stone look I wanted. If one color felt too overpowering, I simply went back in with the base shade to tone it down. The final result, absolutely stunning. Unfortunately, it turned out to be too short for my eucalyptus tree, so I'll be on the lookout for a taller planter. But I know I'll find a perfect spot for this one. To be using this Dollar Tree bowl. I picked this up right around Valentine's Day. I really love the shape of it, how wavy it is, and the size was pretty good as well. And then I was browsing, actually watching Shop With Me videos for from Olive Atelier, and I came across one that had a similar shape. I did love the way that looked, so I thought I recreated. Now these are dupes. These are not going to be exactly like the original pieces, but I am more using these pieces as my inspiration. So I wanted to add some texture to this bowl as well, not just the paint. So I mixed up some of this beige paint that I had left over from a project that I did last year, and I added some flour into it, quite a bit of it, made it really thick, and this gave it a lot of texture. I painted the inside first, and then I flipped it over and painted the outside. So while I'm painting this, I wanted to talk to you guys about where I've been and what I've been up to. So back in January, I posted a craft room makeover video, and I have been back at it making over my craft room simply because I needed to create some storage for all the overflow of daycare stuff that I have accumulated again, and I had to pare down some of the craft supplies. But to be honest with you, there was a lot of stuff that I knew I just wasn't going to use because I've been either had it for way too long and never ended up reaching for it, and or just my style has shifted in a different direction and it was time to let it go and maybe have someone else enjoy it. So I did donate a lot of my decor pieces that I, like I said, haven't been reaching for, to Goodwill, and also my mother-in-law took some, my sister came and took some. So lots of new homes for the decor pieces, and they did not end up in a garbage. And I did the same thing with some of my craft supplies. I did repurpose some of them for the daycare DIYs, well, daycare crafts, or even sensory bins that I could, and then the rest of the stuff was donated. And now I am just taking my time in organizing everything, just making sure that everything has its home. So that way, when I am putting stuff away, I know exactly where it goes, especially the daycare supplies and bins and all that stuff. So while I was doing that, I did completely dismantle my craft room again and had to put it back together. So I had no space, no area where to do DIYs. So I'm back at it again. The space is not perfect by any means. It is a work in progress, but at least I have space to do my own DIYs. So just so you kind of know what's been going on, and I did take the Easter weekend off as well, just to relax and kind of decompress. So once the bowl was all painted up, I did let it dry a little bit, not completely, just because I needed some of that beige paint for blending. And then I took my craft sponge and I added some water to it, made it nice and wet, and then I added a couple different paint blobs to my tray. There was iced cappuccino, there was black, and then I think I was going to do a bronzy color as well, but I did not end up using it because I just had no use for it. I was thinking about adding gray into it, but changed my mind. But I did have to go and add a little bit of white just because I was finding that the black was a little too dark. So it did make a little bit of a gray paint, but I ended up blending it with a lot of the beige that was left in there and the iced cappuccino. So then it wasn't as gray as it started off with. So I hope you guys like I said, like this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you are enjoying it so far. Now, one advice that I can give you with this sponging technique is blend, 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 and blend as much as you want until you achieve the look that you're going after. love the way this turned out. I love all the texture, and let me show you how I style it in my space. For my next one, I picked up a couple birds. They are the concrete birds from Dollar Tree. One has a pointy head and one is a little bit fatter and with a little bit rounder head. And I'm going to use that same Annie Sloan cocoa paint and paint them, covering them fully. With the little blue one, I did let some of that blue just trickle through a little bit, but not too much. And then I'm going to be showing you two different ways to add wax to these birds to kind of create similar looks, but a little bit different. As you can see, I am back into kind of I'm really like, I don't even know how to explain my style right now, but I'm really liking these more natural decor pieces throughout my house. I was trying to figure out what the style is called, and I do think it's a little bit of a French country, but a lot of the pieces, especially the next piece that I'm going to be making over, they call it organic. So I don't know what to call my style then. So as you can see, I brushed the white wax on and then I wiped it off, and then just went with whatever was left on that brush and just filled in the spots that maybe I rubbed off too much. For the next one, I did not do any rubbing off. I went and I just spread it out as much as I could with a brush, trying to get into all the little grooves and crevices that this bird had. They were fabulous for this type of a makeover. And then I just took my rag once I was finished and just wiped off if there were any chunks on there, but I did not rub it in. And I think these birds turned out absolutely stunning. I just love this makeover. I think, like I said, they're going to be great to use all year round, but also great for spring decor. For my next DIY, I picked up these snakes. Now, just a word of advice, Dollar Tree sells these for $1.25 when they have them. Our Dollar Tree didn't have them, but the Dollarama had them for $4 because they were kits. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be using any of the paintbrushes maybe, but not the paint. So I did pay a little bit more for them. And I am removing the head and the tail. Now, some of the heads I just broke off and tails, but some I had to cut off. So see what you have to do, what works. Like I said, the scissors did work because it's just a little string under there, and then a little bit of glue, but like I said, some just came off and some I did have to cut. Then once I had them all cut, now you can make this different sizes. I just kept them all the same, and before I actually assembled them, I was going to paint them. So I was going to actually use that same cocoa paint and make a bit of a stain, like a white or a wash with it, but I tested it on a head of the snake and I did not love the way that looked. So I ended up getting my stain, and I'm going to be using a special walnut in urethane stain. I did do my coffee tables last year, the top with this stain. I do love the look of the stain, but I just wanted to make sure that I was going to like it on this type of wood, because I don't really even know what this is. What type of wood look this is. So I used my rag and I just rubbed it on all over, and I just love the way this turned out. I think this is going to look great, especially with the new reno that we are going to be doing in my kitchen. I think this is going to look fabulous with that. So just want to cover the whole thing. And if you want it a little bit darker, you could go over it one more time. I also want to say, if you're stopping by my channel for the very first time, welcome. My name is Sonja, and on this channel you will find home decor DIYs as well as furniture makeovers and thrift store upcycles. So if this is something that you enjoy watching, I would love it if you consider subscribing and pressing the notification bell so you don't miss out any of my future uploads. And those of you that are continuously watching me, thank you all so much for your support. It means the world to me. So once the stain, all the three pieces were stained, I used a little bit of hot glue just to attach the ends. So I made my first circle, and then I ended up threading the snake through that circle and gluing it together, and then threading the other one through the circles and gluing it together. This is definitely a high-end dupe that I had seen. I think Crate and Barrel sells these. I've seen them at HomeSense, and this was just for $12. It was a good buy. It would be even cheaper if you went with a Dollar Tree snake. Going to be using this bowl that I picked up at Dollar Tree from their Valentine's section for $1.50, and we're going to be recreating this white marble ruffle bowl from our house at $269 on sale. I obviously am not willing to spend that kind of money, and I'm okay if my bowl is plastic as long as it's stylish looking. I'm not planning on putting any food in here, so I'm good to go with plastic and acrylic paint. So I gave this bowl 2 coats of white paint. You want to give some time in between to dry. You could also buy a glossier white spray paint, and that will give you a bit of the shine like the marble paint, like marble bowls have or marble has. Or you could also spray it with a glossy finish if you want that bit of a shine on it. I was okay with the white dull paint. I quite prefer that look. So I just left mine as is after the second coat had dried. Once I was done painting the second coat, I did let it dry again. And then I went ahead and got some of my craft sponges and my dark wax. You could also water down some brown paint and do this as well. It's all about blending here. So I wanted my brushes to be wet, so it's a little bit easier to blend it up. And I also put some of this wax on a piece of wood. I just had some garden stakes that were all broken up, so I just used that, but you could also use popsicle stick if you really wanted to, just so that way I'm not dipping the wet sponges into the wax directly. So this is antiquing wax, not as a finishing wax, and I just went very lightly on just different areas, because the bowl that from our house does have a bit of a yellowish staining at the bottom, so I wanted to recreate that. You totally don't have to do this. You know, you can recreate it, create whatever you like. You could also add some lines if you wanted to, or like I said, just leave it as is. So this, I took the wax, put it on, and then I flipped the sponge and just use the wet part to kind of blend it in. And then on the areas where I went a little bit heavier, and I ended up adding a little bit of paint, white paint, just to, like I said, just to blend it all in. I love these kind of projects where you can just put your own touches on, and no matter what, every single one of them will turn out differently. think this is going to look great with some Easter eggs or some spring, even some spring flowers in there. I can't wait to use it. So the next project, I'm going to be making some Easter eggs. I love these moss eggs that I saw at Pottery Barn, but they are 19 for set of 6, which isn't overly pricey, but I had all of the supplies on hand, so I figured I will recreate. I did make only 3 of them, but a package of eggs at Dollar Tree cost me $1.50, and the moss was free because I had it on hand. But you can totally get a package at Dollarama and Dollar Tree, depending on which one you're looking for, from anywhere from $1.50 to $3. And you are not going to use the whole package, even on the 6 eggs. Well, you might, for 6 eggs, you might use a whole package. So I glued these together, and then I ended up doing 2 different ones because I had 2 different styles of moss, and I just wanted to see how the 2 different mosses will look on the eggs. This is very hard to do without burning yourself, so if you have some protective covers and you can handle wearing gloves while you do this, I highly recommend it. Otherwise, be prepared, you will burn your fingers. So I believe the first moss that I'm going to be working with is called a deer moss, and I was just trying to scrape off a little bit of the dirt from behind it, just so it's a little bit thinner, not as thick. You don't have to do this. Your eggs will be much larger than once they are finished, which is okay. And then once I had all this moss on there and it was nicely pressed in, and I gave the egg a little haircut just to kind of loosen up some of the flyaways that were on top of the egg. Now then I proceeded on putting this type of moss. I'm not sure what this one's called, and I wasn't an overly huge fan of this one. I thought the other one worked a little bit better, but I thought I'd show you both, and you decide which one you would like to use if you decide to recreate this project. I think these eggs will go really well with my decor, as is very earthy and natural decor that I use in my house. If you haven't seen how I decorate my house, make sure you head on over to my home channel, and here it is in that bowl that I created. I think this looks really nice, and like I said, perfect for my decor. Now moving on, we're going back to our house, and I have had this, was a DIY a while back that I created. It's just a small terracotta pot with a tray and a candle holder. Both came from Dollar Tree, both $3, and we're going to, for both, and we're going to be recreating this Santorini candlesticks that was $49. So I'm going to, this is very simple DIY. Again, just like the bowl, you can spray paint this if you want. I thought I had white spray paint, turns out I didn't, so I ended up using the same acrylic paint and painted the candlestick with that, 2 coats. But first I had glued it together. You can also use a E6000 or more permanent, like a Gorilla Glue, that instead of hot glue, if you wanted it to be more of a permanent or less of a chance of breaking it. I'm taking my chances, and I just used the hot glue primarily because my Gorilla Glue dried out. So again, I gave this candlestick 2 coats, and you just want an even full coverage on it. You can spray it at this point or leave it as is, and here it is with a candle, and I think this turned out so nice and so close to the original, the inspirational. For my next DIY, I had picked up these different size of pots at Dollarama. They're 2 different sizes. I was hoping to get one more, but again, The one that I went didn't have it, so I'll just make do with these 3, and if by the time this video goes up, if I find more, I will post those as well. This is very simple. I will be using my chalk paint for this, and I love those pods that look like French. I think they're French pods. I think that's what they're called, and that's what I'm going to try and replicate, and I want to plant my herbs in them. So I'm just using the chalk paint, the by Rust-Oleum in linen white, and I'm going to be dry brushing. So I picked up some paint onto my brush, but I'm taking most of it off, and I am just going to dry brush it on. And I think I might even use a little bit of water just to thin the paint out once it's on there. Brush in the water. And now I'm just going to repeat the process. I really like the way that turned out, and I'm going to repeat the same process for all the rest of them. I am also going to do the saucers as well, but just on the outside. There's no point of doing them on the inside, just maybe the top lip, just so that way they match. So the last thing that I'm going to do is put labels on these, and I had printed out some of these French labels. Well, it says oval French ephemera labels. It's by Dreams Factory for the Graphics Fairy, and I will link it down below because they are free printables. And I am going to do a transfer. I have a full video how I do the transferable labels, so I will include that, but I am going to use these a bit bigger ones for it. I hope it works out. If it doesn't, that's okay. I'm going to try one first and then go from there. You need tape. I'm actually going to put this here so I have a clean surface because my table's a mess. Just going to make sure that this is on, and I'm just using a little tool from Pampered Chef that comes with their stones just to get it as bubble free as possible. So now that I have this done, I'm going to stick it in the water and leave it in for a couple minutes. Okay, so I think it worked. So the next step is I'm just going to gently rub off some of this paper. Nice and clean. I'm just going to snip off some of the edges a little bit. Right here, I'm going to attach this. And I think because it's going to go outside, I am going to brush up a little bit of glue on it as well. Go over the top too, that way it's nice and secure. So I'm gonna let that dry, and I'm going to repeat that for all the rest of them. So here are the pots. I am going to be placing them right there, but as you can see, it's raining outside, so I didn't want to do it right now, but I will show you on Instagram. If you are not following me, make sure you are. Same handle name, and there is also a link in bio for a link to the Instagram page. But for now, this is where they are, and I absolutely love the way they turned out. I think they're so cute, exactly what I was going for. I am super excited to be bringing you 3 brand new Easter DIYs. These are DIYs for spring that are made out of dollar store materials. So for this very first one, I'm starting off with this a little glass jar or a vase. I got this at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be spray painting it with the Rust-Oleum chalked paint in white. I just want to give it a light coat, and then you want this coat to dry, but I am not going to wait for it to fully dry. So once my vase or a jar was somewhat dry, so you want it to be tacky, but not to the point where the paint is staying on your fingers. You just want it to be tacky. And then I took my Stampin' Up stamps for Easter theme stamps, and I'm going to be stamping on to the jar with some black stamping pad. Now this can be any color, it really doesn't matter what color it is. I'm pretty sure that you probably could do it without color as well, because the tackiness will kind of transfer onto the stamp, and you will see a beautiful, almost like glass etching effect that this leaves. I just absolutely love the way this turned out, and I'm going to add a little mushrooms to go with the little bunny. Any stamps will do. They don't have to be Stampin' Up stamps. I just happen to have tons of stamps from scrapbooking. I used to scrapbook a lot, and I have a lot of these stamps laying around, and I'm so glad that I did not get rid of them, because I have started to use them in my DIYs quite a bit in the last month or so. Now at this point you could probably just leave it as is, but I wanted to add a little bit of rope, nautical rope to it, just to add another texture to the glass to kind of go along with all the rest of my decor. So I added about 3 rows to the bottom and about one, I think I did about 1 row at the top. I just love the way this looks. It looks so pretty with the candle in it, and is on this bunny. I had picked this guy up at Dollarama for $4, but I wanted to make him go along with my decor a little bit better, and I wanted to give him a bit of a concrete finish. So I will be using black, gray, as well as white acrylic paint and a simpling brush to achieve this look. So now that it's time to apply the paint, I am dipping the paintbrush in all 3 colors at the same time. So the bunny is almost done, but I did find it was a little bit darker than I wanted it to be, so I am going to wait for it to dry a little bit and then go ahead and apply some of the white paint on it and blend it in, and this had lightened up the look of him. I think he turned out so cute, and I just love how he looks in my decor. We are in a little bit of a different setting. I am outside on my back porch patio because it's absolutely gorgeous, and since this is an outdoor project, I thought it would be fitting to do it outside. So I have my, just wanted to show you things I'm going to be using. So I have my hot glue gun. I have this bowl that I had actually made over, it was about 2 years ago. I will link it, the video at the end of this one, if you want to see how I created the concrete look on it and how I weighed it down and all that stuff. Because I just leave it outside and it sits outside, the top part kind of got a little bit weathered. I still have it. I'm going to use it for a different project, but I wanted to give this a bit of a new look. So I am keeping this piece of wood here, and there are rocks underneath it to weigh it down, so that way when there's winds it doesn't go flying everywhere. And then I went out to Dollar Tree and picked up all of these assortment of succulents. I'm probably not going to use all of them because the bowl and obviously the amount of succulents I have is more succulents than the size of the bowl, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But that way I have my choice of what I want to use. I also picked up some of this artificial moss, and then I also have a couple rocks here because I'm thinking I might, depending on how much moss I have left over, dress them up and make them into little moss balls, and so that I can just fill it in and have it even more of a weight down. Now this is a kind of a look for less or high-end dupe, because I had seen these, for example, here on Wayfair. It is over $100, and I can really make this one for probably under $10, which is what I like to keep it, especially if I'm going to be keeping it outside, because no matter how much money you pay, I find over the years the outdoor stuff does wear and tear because of the outdoor elements, so especially here in Canada. So I don't obviously keep it out all of winter. Pretty much spring until mid-fall is when things are kept outside. So without further ado, I'm going to get started and assemble this. So first I'm going to do a bit of a dry run just to see how I want things to look. And I'm going to cut off these little tips just so they sit nicer. And this one has obviously a very long one, so this just pulls out. I think the Dollar Tree has such a great assortment of succulents, and I lucked out because they were fully stocked, so I was able to pick and choose whichever ones I wanted to use. I wanted it to add a little bit of color, but not to be too overpowering, so I added couple colored ones, but kind of stuck mostly to the green tones. I do also love creating these look for less or high-end dupes, because there's so much decor out there, and as some prices I just don't understand sometimes where they come up with them. I know that this might be a touch smaller, although if I were to measure it, I bet you it was close to 8 inches what that one was on there. And with a little bit of creativity, you can achieve almost the same exact look as the store-bought stuff for a fraction of the price, especially for something that you're going to be keeping outside and it's going to be getting hit by elements, because I don't want to have to bring it in every time it's raining or windy or anything like that. If I have to do that I'd rather just not have anything, because it's just such a pain in the butt to be doing that, in my opinion. I know there's people, I don't even like really having cushions on my chairs for that same reason because I to keep in mind that I have to put the cushions away every time it rains. It's too much work for me. That's just me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with putting, I admire people that do that, but like I said, for me, I just want something simple that looks beautiful and it's functional. When gluing these on, you want to be fairly generous to do so. I was thinking about maybe removing the wood and putting like florist brick there in there, but I was worried what would happen if it was getting constantly wet from the rain and stuff. I know that I will probably have to redo a little bit of glue at the end of the season or before next year's season, just because again with all the rain and stuff the glue will come loose. But I had if you watched the video when I originally made this, I did have one of those green balls, kind of boxwood balls on there, and I had it glued it, and it lasted me for 3 years, so 2 or 3 years. So I mean, it really isn't it doesn't come apart that easily as long as you're fairly generous. And I like having that piece of wood in there, and there's rocks underneath to weigh it down again for the wind and all that fun stuff that comes with spring and summer weather. So I did find that I had room for about 2 of these rocks, so I had wrapped up these with the 2 rocks with this moss. This is a different moss that I'm used to working. These are more like moss discs, and they have some sort of a black backing on them, almost like a fuzzy backing, which makes them quite thick. But you can remove that if, like I did for the wrapping of the rocks, just because it was a little bit too bulky with it on and it was showing through. And I'm only covering the top because the bottom is going to be glued to the top of it, so you can't see the bottom. And this just added a little bit extra weight. And now I just continued to fill in wherever I saw, if I saw wood or the other moss that was there from the previous project, I just ended up cutting this and filling it in until I covered all of it.
Someone did you wrong. I can see it in your eyes. It's like your fire is gone. Across your face, it is written across your face. If you wanna talk, I'm right here, not gonna leave your side. Just feel free to open up when the moment's right. Across your face, it is written across your face.
So here it is, all finished, and I just love the way it turned out. I think the color of the moss is just the right choice, and a little bit of rocks just gave it a little bit of more of a heavier look, which is what I was looking for. And I think it's going to look absolutely stunning on my table here instead of that. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're not. If you're stopping by again, a returning subscriber, thank you so much for following along. I appreciate it so very much. So until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you all so much for watching. Starting off today with the designer dupe from Amber Interiors. I've been eyeing these beautiful carved stone bowls, but at $80 a piece, they're definitely on the pricey side. So I decided to recreate a look for a whole lot less. I picked up this ceramic bowl from Dollarama for just $1.50. You could also use similar ones from Dollar Tree or your local thrift store. The bowl already had some texture, but it was too repetitive. I wanted it to look more organic, more like a real stone. To give it the natural stone texture, I used Dixie Belle's mud and applied it with a small spatula, dabbing it in random spots. This process is quick and easy and really transforms the surface. Once the mud was dry, I painted the bowl using Dixie Belle's Ecru chalk paint, dabbing it on lightly with a damp paper towel. Then I layered in some coffee chalk paint from Dixie Belle as well in the same way for dimension, finishing with a touch of burnt umber acrylic paint to give it a warm aged patina. Amber Interiors suggests using these bowls as they are, or as candle holders or incense sand bowls. So that is exactly what I did. I added some sand and incense, and I absolutely love the result. It's such a beautiful and minimal addition to my decor. Speaking of incense, while browsing Amber Interior's site, I came across another beautiful incense holder that inspired my next DIY. I wanted to mimic the look, but couldn't find the perfect bowl, so I picked up a simple clay saucer for flower pots from Dollarama. For the incense holder insert, I grabbed some air dry clay, also from Dollarama, and shaped it into a small ball. Flattened one side so it could sit securely in the saucer. Using an incense stick, I made multiple holes, some slightly larger than others, to accommodate different sizes. I wrapped the clay in a damp paper towel while drying to prevent cracking. While the clay dried, I painted the saucer with Dixie Belle's Midnight Skies chalk paint, which is a rich dark blue-black. Once dry, I added depth with a mix of burnt umber and coffee chalk paint, lightly brushing it inside the saucer to replicate the dimension in the inspiration piece. Before attaching the incense insert, I applied Dixie Belle's gilding wax in antique gold to give it that elevated luxe finish. Once the gilding wax was on, I used Gorilla Glue to glue the piece to the little tray. So once assembled, it turned out to be such a chic, high-end looking piece, perfect on a coffee table tray or a shelf. If you're loving these DIY high-end home decor dupes, don't forget to tap that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I share new budget-friendly designer DIYs every single week, and you won't want to miss what's coming up next. Next up is a gorgeous designer vase dupe, the Santiago vessel from Amber Interiors, which sells for a jaw-dropping $400. Mine just $3 from the thrift stores. While the shape was very similar, my size was much smaller. So I prepped the glass vase using Isabel's Bonding Boss, a primer that helps paint adhere to tricky surfaces like glass. Once dry, I painted it with Isabel's coffee chalk paint, which is a deep, moody brown that shifts with the light. It sometimes looks black, sometimes brown, and adds such a beautiful richness and organic designer feel. The final look has all the charm and texture of the $400 version without the splurge.